What's up, Britt?
Hi.
How crazy that we're here.
It's so crazy.
We've had the most wild day.
We really have.
Like,
oh my gosh.
We've been going since when? Well, you've been going since like
5. Well, and you called me at 5, so
Yep.
It's been a long day.
Yep. We've just got the adrenaline all day.
Uh-huh.
Well, welcome to SpiritPod.
Oh, I like that.
Did we
said it
harmonize a little
together.
bit? SpiritPod. This is the podcast for new spirit recovery. Brittany.
Anna.
You just joined today. You just joined the team today.
Yes, I did. Today was, technically my first day, and I'm so excited. We had an amazing day. We got to see the facility. I got to see the facility for the first time. It is incredible.
We had the whole opening event with all the staff, the new team, the clinicians, like insane. And what's even more insane is the fact that we're on this team, to be honest.
Yes, it really is.
I mean, the fact that we are in these chairs right now, alive.
What is life right now?
Is probably more crazy. More crazy.
Right?
And because we met through like TikTok, right? Because you were sharing your sober story. And I was sharing mine. Well, and I also was sharing like the mental health stuff. And so were you. And just like the most absolutely insane personal stories ever. And then just like happened to like cross paths.
Yep.
What, it was like 2 years ago.
And we went on a couple girl trips.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah. And what's like, there are so many people who have crazy stories like this about like addictions and recovery. And I feel like that's why, like, that's what this podcast, you know,
that is
going to bring on.
Goal. One of the goals.
Yeah.
We have lots of goals.
Well, because they're like all these crazy stories, and then people like no one hears them because people are too afraid to talk about things like addiction, mental illness, recovery, like in the shit that comes with it.
Yeah.
Right? Because like you have an insane story. And a lot of things happened. Are you getting emotional, Brittany?
No, does it look like I'm crying?
A little bit.
I might at some point, but that won't be a shocker if I do. Yeah. Both of our stories are crazy. So crazy. So, really quickly, goals with this podcast, okay? We want to eventually have other people on and do interviews so they can share their story.
Yes.
We want to kind of just end the stigma and talk about taboo topics and things that people normally don't talk about, and recover out loud.
Recover out loud. And I think we're already doing that with just the oversharing on social media.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yes.
So speaking of oversharing, if you could like Spark Notes version describe the absolute insanity with like your recovery story, how would you Spark Note it?
How long do we have?
Probably not long enough.
Okay. I mean, I started drinking at a very young age. By the time I was 19, I went to treatment twice already. I was kind of sober, met my husband in sober living. Wouldn't recommend, but it worked for us. We had 3 kids, and then after our twins were born, I decided to pick up drinking again, thinking, oh, it was just like something that happened when I was young. And 3 years of drinking later, and I am at my absolute rock bottom. My husband and I, we go through a divorce. I lose custody of the kids. I'm homeless. And on February 9th, 2020, by the grace of God, I got sober. And wow, has my life changed tremendously. I got my husband back. I got my kids back. We live a life today that I could have never even imagined 4 years ago. So my sobriety date is February 9th, 2020. So in February, I will have 4 years.
4 years. Let's go.
What's yours?
10.
Yes.
But listen, I got an early start.
Yes.
I got an early start.
Oh.
Crazy though, that like you just did full circle. Like you lost so much and really hit that like rock bottom point, and then fucking just beat the shit out of that addiction. And you just like came out the other end. And I think like this full circle moment is...
It really is. And I want to say something. When I went on Bunny's podcast, there was one thing that I forgot to say, and I think it's so crazy, and it really puts into perspective like just how bad it was. But when I was out, like I was MIA, homeless, that's when my we forgot to put a trigger warning on this.
Oh yeah. Trigger warning. Going forward.
Talking about sensitive topics.
Yes.
Substance abuse,
mental health, boom, boom, boom.
All the things. The craziest thing is, so my husband, he had told his work, like during that time, that he was going to need to take some time off soon because his wife was going to die, because he thoroughly believed that was happening. And when he told me that, like my heart just sank, because that's like the reality of how, that's how bad it was.
It gets.
Yeah. So what about yours? If you had to
spark note
I'm like, enough about me.
Spark note it up. I've been sober for 10 years. I'm sober from opioids, real hard street drugs. Started using as a very young teen, trying to cope with trauma, trying to cope with mental health, mental illness. I was seeing therapists as young as 13. Self-medicating so much, like was my only means of knowing how to survive at that point. Went to a lockdown facility twice as an adolescent, which is insane. So much to say on the troubled teen industry. And then I went back again at 19 and have been sober since. So I feel like my sobriety journey when I was using was like a short span, but a fucking acute one.
Yeah.
A intense one. The amount of times, I realistically should not be here.
Yeah.
Mixed with, with like, with addiction, there are so many underlining things: trauma, mental illness, like mental health things, environmental things, like all these things that happen. And for me, it just had me in the hospital all the time.
Yeah. Yes.
Like,
oh my gosh,
just attempts or like overdoses and these moments that...
Were you ever 5150'd?
No. Were you?
I was told that if I didn't voluntarily stay for 2 days, they would put me on one, but technically not.
That's what they said to me too.
Yeah, so I'm like, I voluntarily... My husband's like, you were 5150. I'm like, I voluntarily stayed.
But then if you try and leave, they're like, hold on. If you try and leave,
yes,
then you will be.
I think there was another time too back when, but yeah.
Just insane. Yeah, I remember I brought like because I got really onto painkillers through I had a lot of random like medical emergencies when I was a teen.
That's so common.
I swear it was my trauma manifesting in my body. Like my body, I was like appendicitis, like I was having all these crazy things, kidney issues. I really think it was my body like lashing out with all the trauma that I had stored in my body.
Wow.
But because I had so many surgeries and so many medical emergencies, they were giving me so much Oxy, so much Vicodin, and you feel the effects of those from pain, and you're like, it works, it helps, and then you're like, wait a minute, I hate my life, so this might make me feel a little better too.
And that's something that's different. about us.
Really?
I never liked pills. Like
Really?
I broke my wrist once snowboarding and I got prescribed Vicodin. And I was like, I don't like this. I don't want to take this. I think for me, it was always like alcohol and uppers. Like that was my thing.
So weird how like everyone's DOC is just so catered to like what they need and what they're seeking.
Yeah.
I remember I was in like middle school. I remember being like in the girls' bathroom and I had like 2 bottles full of pills, and in both pill bottles were razors.
Oh my gosh.
I brought like and here's a big trigger warning, I bought like a suicide kit with me to school.
Oh my gosh.
And I carried
I was
it
a cutter
around
too.
with me.
I think we've talked about this. Yeah.
Yep. It was
to school. Wow.
I just remember doing some sketchy shit in the bathrooms, and I had to get taken to the hospital from my high school. Like,
oh, wow.
Just
hurting.
Just hurting.
I found a journal the other day. I don't know how or why I got it because I don't have like a ton of pictures from when I was younger, but I found a journal from when, I don't know, I want to say maybe late middle school, early high school, but it was so sad when I was reading it. Like I was not happy with myself. And just the things that I would say, like I was just like, I don't want to be here. So like for me too, it started at a very young age. And I think it's like something still as a 34-year-old, like I still struggle with, you know, like just accepting yourself for who you are and loving yourself for who you are. And definitely getting sober helped that for me. It helped me discover who I am and it gave me something to be proud of. But I was going somewhere with that. Lately, that's been happening to me. I lose my train of thought when I'm in a really good conversation. Is it like our Swiss cheese
brains from using for
probably? So long? Oh my gosh, my memory shot. No, that's okay. Wait. It was. I was going. I'll think about it in a second.
It'll pop back up.
It's like on the tip of my tongue now. That's bothering me. I was talking about how just this journey and. But okay, I remember what it was. So since getting sober then, you know, I really, oh my gosh, my first year of sobriety, I was riding on cloud nine. That's when I started TikTok and just had a great year.
Oh, you were that early in recovery when you started?
Yeah, wow. 4 months sober, I made my first video, you know, and then I did the 5 months sober, 6 months sober, all the backflip dances.
I didn't realize you started so soon.
Yeah.
After.
It was really
So you
early.
like really documented everything.
I didn't even have legal custody or physical custody back of the kids. I had legal custody at that time, but I still didn't have physical custody. I got it shortly after, but yes, it was very early. And so, you know, since getting sober, my first year was amazing. But then my second year of sobriety, holy crap, did that go to shit. Like it was bad. And like, that's when I really realized like, okay, Brittany, like you have more problems than, you know, you can't blame all of that on your addiction because you're still fucked up. You're still doing things that, you know, and you're sober now. And I think that's when really I started focusing on my mental health and seeing a doctor. And I got on medication for the first time. Like I am 30. I mean, when I went to detox and treatments before, they would always prescribe me medications, but I just was not like, I've never been a huge pill person. And so I just didn't really take them. And that's when like my whole mental health journey really started, was last year.
It's crazy how much, I mean, and I think that's a really important thing for people to note is like how much there is underneath addiction. And like, you can't just look at the substance. You have to look beyond it because there's just like, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
That's how you're seeing it, right? Like, but there's so much beyond that. There's trauma. There's, you know, beliefs about ourselves. There's mental health. There's like our
genetics.
Ideas of predispositions. You know, the way we value ourselves, the way we see life, the way we see the world. Everything, all those things impact someone's choice to start for the first time and then fall into addiction. And like just treating the substance, which happens a lot in this industry, right? You do a quick 30 days in, out. And you don't, if you don't touch more than just the substance, people relapse.
Yeah.
And they're like, why am I still miserable? And it's like, because
there's more than just the substance.
Yes. Like, there's a reason people fall into these things. And there's a common denominator in so many people who do fall into addiction, and a lot of common denominators at that.
Yeah.
And that's why I think like treating the person as a whole and tackling, like when I went to treatment, I mean, 2 of my treatment stays, I was in a cement room.
Yes. You just told me that. Yeah. I was like, what?
They locked me in an isolation room.
How old are you at this time too?
16.
It seems like it should be illegal.
Well, yeah, it was. And I got in trouble.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, sleeping in a cement room with a like gymnastics mat. Our food was given to us like under the door.
That's what I experienced in the drunk tank in the jail.
It was basically the equivalent of a jail. A professional jail, apparently. But, you know, all the times I got help, I wish they would have tackled so much more than what was being seen, which was my addiction.
Yeah.
I think, and that's why I came out and I relapsed like 3 times.
Yeah.
And you see it so much. You see it so much.
Yeah. And a lot of denial for me. I think it's very hard to accept that you are an addict or you are an alcoholic. And especially when you get clean and sober young, you know? I think it's absolutely amazing that you have been able to stay clean for this long with getting clean at 19 years old, you know, because that's when I first tried, but I didn't take it seriously. I was only there because my parents wanted me to be there. I thought I was fine. I made sure to tell everyone when I was in treatment that I was only there for Coke. Only because I wanted to make sure when I got out, I could still drink, you know, because it was just Coke. No. Yes. So that's like how I handled it. And it's so funny, like realizing it now as, or even when I got sober at 30, I was like, bitch, you have always been an alcoholic. Like literally it was in your blood since the day you were born, you know, with definitely the family stuff plays into it all. And
if it runs in your family, especially, and like having addictive personalities, like there's just so many factors that impact it in each.
Are your parents addicts? Okay.
But there were some substance abuse issues in my extended family.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, so they say, one of my biggest fears, they say like so if you have a parent that is an alcoholic or addict, 1 in 3 kids will also have addiction problems. And I have 3 kids. So that is like something that I think about every single day. It's just like, it's sad. And so I'm thankful that I got my shit together when I did. You know, my daughter was 6 when I got sober. My boys were 3. So my daughter does remember quite a bit. The boys, not so much. Like they were young. But I hope that now my daughter, she's almost going to be 11. And I think about it and I'm like, wow. Okay, she's getting up. I feel like the kids these days too are growing up so much quicker. Like they're doing things like I never would have expected kids to have phones as young as they do now, kids to be on social media, have all these freaking apps. It's just such a different world.
It is a different world. It's today. A different time.
And so I'm just trying to lead by example for them and show them you know, that you can overcome hard things and that you can still have fun without drugs and alcohol. And, if they decide to, it's hard. It's like, I haven't really totally thought about it. Anytime someone's asked me, I'm like, oh, they're too young. But like now it's like kind of starting to set in. And, you know, ultimately, like it's going to be their decision. But they are going to go into it knowing something that I didn't know. Because when I started drinking, I didn't fully realize like the effects that, you know, my parents never talked to me about it. My dad was an alcoholic, but it was just never really talked about. And so now, you know, my kids will know that there's a good chance that they could wind up too having addiction problems. And I explain it to my kids as having an allergy. So like they, you know, think mommy's allergic to alcohol. Like that's the easiest way to describe it to kids. And so, you know, there's a possibility that you could also be allergic. And the crazy thing is that you won't know like until you try it. And that's something for me, like my mom said right away, the first time she saw me drunk, she was like, I saw it in your eyes, Brittany. She was like, I knew you were an alcoholic. I knew you had it. I knew you were, because my dad, you know, and that's like, it's crazy to me that it was that noticeable to my mom. Like we were just talking about that, like the first feeling of alcohol and what it felt like. And
that's crazy that like, you know, people who do have those predispositions just are at like such an increased risk. And a lot of people didn't even know they have predispositions, right?
Yeah.
And then you get kind of thrown down this rabbit hole. And then there's the whole aspect of like, you know, once you're in the rabbit hole, how do you even recognize you're in it?
Yeah.
First of all, how do you get yourself to want help? And then how do you get help? And for me, like, and this goes for like drugs, and this also goes for like my mental health. Getting to a place where I wanted to help myself was the biggest battle every single time, because the most consistent thing in my life was pain and suffering and sadness, and that was my sense of consistency. And if I walked away from that, who would I be? I'm going to have this identity crisis.
Yes.
What's left of me? What's left of my world? I'm going to have nothing familiar anymore.
Yeah.
And what's familiar is the only thing that I know that feels safe.
Yeah.
So how dare I leave the one thing that's been here for me?
I was terrified. I was like, who am I going to be? I'm going to be so boring, like without alcohol. Like I drank to do anything towards the end, you know? And I legit thought it helped me. Like I remember like saying little things like, oh, I you know, oh, I remember I cut hair better when I'm drunk. Like, no one cuts hair better when you're drunk. But I literally thought that, like, so that was a huge fear of mine, was who was I going to be without substances? But that's the beautiful process of recovery. And that's something you get to figure out, because although addiction is not a choice, recovery is. And you get to choose and you get to want a better life, but you have to want it and you have to be ready to accept it too.
Absolutely. I think that's something I tell my clients all the time, is that there is so much power in choice. Your choices on a daily basis are going to dictate every single result that you have in your life. Every single feeling you have, every outcome you have is going to be dictated by your choices, whether they're big or small. But a lot of people won't make different choices because they have old belief systems or old self-concepts or old understandings or these like brain distortions that we all have, right? Like that's what stopped me from getting help, was because I was like, well, I'm a failure anyways. I'm not worth it. I'm not enough. I can't do it. What's the point? And the minute you like with that identity, you start stepping into a different identity, you start like moving different, and you're like, wait a minute. If I'm not identifying with that anymore and I can start making different choices, maybe my life can look different. but you have to have like that willingness, which is so hard.
Yes.
And then once you have the willingness, how do we get proper help?
Yes. I always tell people, like, for me, like, unfortunately, I had to suffer the consequences. I had to hit that absolute rock bottom. But I always tell people, you don't have to wait to get to that point in order to get help. You know, I think that's been one thing that's hard for me with like sharing my story. It was like, I don't want anyone to ever think, oh, well, I haven't, you know, like lost custody of my kids, so I'm probably not an alcoholic. Or like for me, I've thought it too. Like I've never got a DUI, you know, so which I should have, but that.
It's that like bad enough.
Yeah.
Like, am I bad enough to get help? Am I bad enough for treatment? And like that does not exist.
Yeah.
If you think you need help, go seek it out. Go ask. Like you don't know until you ask.
Right.
Like even just having that conversation. I wish I knew that so much sooner. That like I didn't have to wait until I was on the floor basically dying to say, hey, this isn't working for me and I need to do something different.
And it's okay to ask for help. I think sometimes that's so hard too when you're just at your lowest, like.
Oh, because there's shame. There's so much shame and you're embarrassed and you don't want to, you feel like a burden.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so scary is like these people really, truly believe that they're a burden. And it's so hard to see past.
It really is. So what is your reason for wanting to join the New Spirit team? What is your reason and your purpose, and what do you want to do with it?
So when I started recovering and getting better and like, you know, finally created a good life for myself, I opened up a business in coaching. I got certified in coaching and I started guest speaking and doing some motivational speaking and like adore every aspect of that and adore running my own business, adore seeing these clients and getting to like have that rewarding interaction.
Yeah.
But it's like a one-woman show over here. It's just me.
Yeah.
I don't have help. And I was like, man, it'd be cool to like work with a team. It would be cool to like branch out and do something bigger and have more impact and do more. Cause I'm like that crazy person who like never feels like they're doing enough.
Same.
And I'm like, more. I can do better. Let's make it bigger. Let's make it better. More impact. And so when I connected with Sean, you know, talked about like ways that like we can really raise like this impact of New Spirit. And I was like, hold on. What if I brought my coaching to New Spirit and really just was like, I pitched this.
Yeah.
I was like, what if we do this? What if we bring those modalities over? Because I would have loved to have therapy and coaching.
Yeah.
Because I needed both, but they were different perspectives and they gave me different tools and they gave me different things. So being able to come onto here and the community, first of all, with New Spirit is wild. It is like nothing I've seen because every single person is in recovery and so passionate. Like you talk to one person on the team and you can just like see the passion like like bleeding through their skin. Like it's just, it comes out of their pores and you can tell that like.
And that is something I was so scared about. You know, I have some fear with the industry and everyone does. And I had a lot of fears, but like being with everyone today, like made me feel so good, you know, and just seeing how genuine and even like we had the grand opening today. And so there were a lot of other treatment center owners in there and a lot of people. And you just tell it was good people who actually care, who actually want to do better, who actually want to be better.
Which is so needed in this industry because, you know, like I've had my fair share of bad experiences in facilities, right? You have, they're out there. A lot of people have had them. So being a part of the solution and being part of like quality care, I think means everything to all of us. And I think like that's the purpose.
Yeah.
That's the purpose right there. And, you know, Erica Spiegelman's modalities with Rewired that we're bringing into this is phenomenal. Like such a needed approach too, right? And very similar to the modalities I'm bringing in. So like when I looked over hers, I was just like, okay, like this is perfect alignment. Like let's offer like one more tool, another tool, like as many tools as we can give these people, because people receive help in different ways. Some things work for someone.
Yeah.
Maybe someone else, another. This was just like destiny. It felt like it like just kind of like fell into my lap. And I was like, this is like what I was like, this was the last piece for me. Having a team like the one that we have and doing such meaningful work in like a holistic way where we're not just babysitting.
Yeah.
We're not just taking people for like 30 days and then being like, nice to have you. Here's your food. Read a book, sit by the water.
We want to set them
safe.
up for the real world. Like aftercare is so important. And yeah.
I would have loved to like, I would have loved a place that like this.
Oh my gosh. So 2 of the detoxes, well, one of them that I went to, like it was crazy walking through the facility today because I'm like, damn, this is like, it's so nice. Like I would have loved to detox at a place like this. It's truly going to feel like vacation for people. And I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. I did not go to nice places. I went to one nice place. I've been to treatment 3 or 4 times. I never had long-term stays though. And I did like a hospital type one. I did a more like big building facility. I also did more of like a house facility. And I think that's it. So yeah. So 3 times. And then yeah, I don't know, with I was a little, it made me feel good talking to Sean today, just like, you know, of him, like he left the industry for a little bit and then he came back, and I felt the same. I honestly, when I left my last job at the treatment center, I had quite a big resentment for the industry, and I was like, I don't know if I'll ever come back. However, like in this 1.5 years that I've been not like strictly just doing social media, like not working in helping people, even though I am still helping people like with my content and stuff, it's something different when you get to be a part of this whole process. Like I'm sure you've got to see a lot with your clients from coaching. And so I just realized like that this is my purpose and like this is what I'm meant to do. And it was a huge fear of mine. You know, I debated like, are you ready? Like, and ultimately I was like, I have to do this because yes, there's going to be places that aren't great. There's going to be people that aren't great. But if the good people, like the people who really want to help and the people who are really in this for the right reasons, if they get too scared and fear stops them, like who's going to
be left?
Yes. And who's going to like make the industry better, you know? Who is going to change it? And so it was just amazing today to see Zach and Sean and Erica and all the new management, you know, just to see where their hearts are. And I was like, okay, I had a feeling it was going to be a good fit, but like after today, I was like, okay, this is definitely a good fit. And I'm just so excited. And I think that together we are going to help so many people.
I love too.
Yes. So we are dual diagnosis.
Yes.
So, which is so important. And
oh my God, I needed dual diagnosis.
Yes. Yeah, me too. And my mom, she searched one forever. Like I think they're getting more. There's more of them now.
It is picking up a little bit now.
Yeah. There wasn't so many before, and so it was really hard to find one. But that is so important when I think for everyone.
Well, it goes back to that, right? Like you can't just treat the substance. You have to treat the person. And there are usually diagnoses under that. There are wounds under that. There are lifestyles, habits, environments. Oh my God, environment is huge. So huge.
Yes.
It impacts everything. Everything. Who you're around most of the time impacts so much of who you are and how you feel and what you feel about your life.
Yeah.
So like that, treating that person as a whole in that holistic way, I think like being able to be a part of something that offers that is wild, insane. We really get to sit here and be like, we are exactly the people that we needed.
Yeah.
When we were younger.
Truly. It's crazy to think like, okay, so 4 years ago, like this week, 4 years ago, I was in like the worst place ever. That's when I, lost custody of my kids and then basically tried to drink myself to death. My blood alcohol, I tried to get into a treatment center and the center turned me away. They were like, she's too sick. My friend had brought me. She's too sick. She has to go to the hospital. I'm like, I've never heard of that happening. So I went to the hospital. They drew my blood. My blood alcohol was a 0.457. And so I should have been dead. But then a detox center called when I was at the hospital and said they would take me as is. So my friend dropped me off there. And so all of that happened 4 years ago today. And I think it's just so crazy that I would have never imagined like where my life is today, just like getting to a place where I am on, it's come completely full circle and getting to help people in the way that I needed help. I remember there was some good people that helped me, and it is not easy getting sober, by the way. I didn't want to stay there. I wanted to leave. I packed my shit up on
every
day
time
3.
You're like, I'm getting the F out of here right now.
Yes.
I don't belong here. You look at those like, facilities and you look around at like the people then you're like, I'm not one of you. I shouldn't be here. I need to go.
I have my suitcase packed up at the door and I was like, you know what? I feel fine. I'm sober now. And they were like, Brittany, you're sober off alcohol, but now you are on benzos where, you're not sober still. You think you are, but now you're on other substances to get you off the alcohol. They're like, if you walk out that door, like you can't come back in here. And so it's very hard. I think that's something that people probably don't even like really realize is just, it's hard. It's hard to get over that, but like each day it does get better if you stick with it,
How would you describe your life now, like being on the other side?
So many ways.
Because you're a mom, right? You have 3 kids.
Yep. I mean, present.
Yeah.
Probably. I feel like my life was so rushed. Like before I started drinking during the day, it was always like rushing to bedtime to get the kids to bed so like we could start drinking type of thing. And honestly, it's really sad because I was sober for the first 3 years of my daughter's life. And then I drank for the first 3 years of my twin boys' lives. And it's crazy the difference, like I have so many memories with my daughter and like it was just absolutely incredible. And then with twins, like I was a mess all the time. I think that's part of the reason why I'm almost like, I really want another one so bad, because I feel like I missed out on that with the boys. And I have a lot of guilt over that. Just, but yeah, postpartum really took me out there. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. Did you have postpartum?
Oh, postpartum put me in the hospital.
Yeah.
Like that was my viral story happened because
yes.
Yeah. For anyone who's new here, I had a viral story about an attempt that blew up on the internet.
Yes.
Because I had, mainly because of how my paramedics were the most amazing humans in the world. Mm-hmm. But that attempt was because I had such an intense onset of postpartum depression. And then I also had bipolar disorder, which was undiagnosed at that point. Mm-hmm. So those two things at the same time, just, having an 18-month-old at home, I don't know, like people, you can just get in so deep, mm-hmm. whether it's mental illness, whether it's addiction, where you just stop caring. Yeah. You stop caring, and I think that's hard for a lot of people to understand. You're like, oh, you have a kid. How could you use? You have, mm-hmm. family. How could you use? You have this job. How could you use? And it's like, these people are in addiction and they're not actively, like it's a disease. Yeah. And then even with people who are actively suicidal, with mental illness, it can get so dark that you don't see any other options for yourself. Mm-hmm. And you get so dark that you stop caring to find one.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been through a few of those. Last year was a rough one for me. Oh my goodness sakes, but we made it through.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I laugh about, that's just like how I cope with it. Cause like, what else are we going to do? Like, but like realistically, it was very sad. I was just telling Anna, like this time last year, I was trying to find a mental health facility to get me into. Unfortunately, we had zero luck. Which is also just another reason, like that's
the lack of resources. Yes. Oh my gosh, the lack of resources. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Could pop off on that one for hours.
I know.
And it's so sad because like you were in such a dark place and you desperately needed those resources, mm-hmm. and a safe place to go to where you were going to get equitable care. And even with like, like there are a lot of places, a lot of different facilities, a lot of different companies, a lot of different businesses, and somehow it's still not enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's also not always like accessible to everyone, right?
Right. There's so many factors, and it sucks that there has to be other factors, Right. Like if someone needs help and someone wants help, like they should be able to have it, but we don't.
Right. Like there's plenty of people who want help, mm-hmm. and they can't, right? Because of, health insurance, factors at home, mm-hmm. travel, money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, let's be real. It's
like
money.
That. Yeah. That was our issue last year. Like I was just floored at the prices, and this was going to be like a discount for me because I was going to work there. Like, I'm like, to help. Oh, and it was just still thousands and thousands of dollars. And I'm grateful I made it through. I found a foundation helped me find a doctor during that time. And like, even knowing I had this psychiatrist appointment every week, like, I'm like, okay, I have something to look forward to every week. You go to this doctor's appointment, and that gave me like a little bit of hope during that time. Yeah, I wish I could have had more care, but it is what it is. And thankfully I'm in a better place today. And mm-hmm.
I feel like something that a lot of people don't talk about is how like recovery and healing is just so not linear.
Yes.
And like you could be recovered and good for like 5 years, 10 years, however, that doesn't mean that you can't fucking like slip up. Like,
yeah.
And the thing with, and people don't get recognized enough for this, but like people who are battling mental illness or addiction, like it's not a single choice where it's one and done and you get to choose to be better and that's it. You have to get up every day and actively choose recovery and actively choose healing and actively choose to show up.
Yeah.
Every single day you make multiple times a day, you might have to make that choice.
Right.
And some days it's harder.
Yeah. Some days are a lot harder.
Some days you wake up and I don't want to get better. Some days you're like, I don't want to help myself. I don't want to show up. I'm tired. I'm stressed. I'm sad. I'm hurting. And some days people don't choose it and we slip.
Yeah. And I feel like when I slip, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to be here for a while now. You know, but something I've really learned like lately is like, it's okay to have, you know, bad mental health day and like need to just take a day off. But like, you can't stay like that because the longer I stay like that, like the longer it's hard to get out of it. Like there was a couple weeks last year that I could barely get out of bed. My husband would bring me my food in bed. And by the time I actually got out of bed and walked downstairs, like I have this video of me, my legs were like shaking. And it's really crazy just to think that we get to that point. But even more crazy, like, you know, sometimes you can't even brush your teeth. Like it's just the littlest things too that are so hard to do, that are so, if you don't struggle with mental health, then you probably wouldn't understand, you know?
Yeah. And that's where the stigma comes in, where people are like, oh, it can't be hard to brush your teeth. It can't be hard to get in the shower.
You're just lazy.
Yeah. Like, just like, oh my God, you let your dishes pile up. You let your laundry pile up.
Yeah.
Like these people just don't understand that their energy and their brain is so preoccupied with just wanting to be here. Just wanting to show up and stay.
Yeah. And
it's exhausting. It is taxing. And if you haven't lived it, all you see is someone who's not showing up. And you're like, well, why? It's not that hard. Yeah. Just do it. And like, if they could, they probably would. And if they're not, it means they can't.
Right? I was just thinking of like who we should try to get on here to interview.
There are so
you guys listening will have to let us know who you want us to try to get to come on.
I have some good ideas. I'm not going to spill the tea here. But
speaking of tea, just kidding.
Do we?
That's not what this is
That's
for.
not what this podcast is for.
No,
that's not what we do anymore.
No.
I do know some really great names that we could reach out to. I think there's also just so many people to discover, stories to discover.
Yeah.
Like that we've never even heard of, right? Like we know a lot of stories from, you know, storytelling ourselves and meeting people online who do that, because like our, you know, if you guys aren't aware, we're what do you call them, content creators, whatever.
Yeah.
The word I hate using.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna say it.
Content creator, Brittany.
Yeah.
So a lot of our, you know, advocacy does happen in the digital world, so we, you know, make friends with other advocates and other people who have similar stories. So there's so many.
Yeah, that's how we met.
Yeah. So many stories to be told, but also like so many stories to discover and like, you know, get different perspectives, different, you know, backgrounds, struggles, journeys, because you know, even if one person listens to a single story and can be like, I relate to that, it's now I don't feel alone. That's why we need those different stories. And that's like the power of storytelling, right? Like,
yes,
storytelling is literally just saying like, hey, I'm here. I'm human too. This is what I went through. And it really just shows like I feel like your humanity, which a lot of people hide these days. So many people hide the fact that you're a human and not like a machine.
Right.
With like calculated, pretty highlight reels all the time.
Well, I think it had a lot to do with the parasocial relationships. It's like, I think people like think they see us and they get this perception of us, but then if we do or say anything that doesn't align with their beliefs, then all of a sudden, like, oh, I can't support them anymore because, or if they make a mistake, you know?
Cancel culture.
That. Yeah, firsthand. Oh, God, cancel culture. We could talk forever about that.
We have a whole episode on cancel culture. Because we're not human, remember?
Yeah.
That's what.
Yes. No, I will not participate in any sort of cancel culture. I refuse to. I don't believe it.
I mean, it's just that whole idea that like people are people and they do the best they can with what they have and with what they know. And I think like as a collective, we have to have more compassion and more empathy, but like also be more open to learning.
Right.
And being accountable.
Speaking of learning.
What?
One thing like I'm super excited about. Okay, so I worked at a treatment center for like a year and a half before. And like thinking like, you know, coming and joining the team, joining the New Spirit team, like thinking, okay, like what do you want to do that's different? And so, and there's a lot of things that I want to do that's different. And, but like the one thing I'm super excited about, I am going to start getting some certifications. So probably recovery coach, interventionist, and I'm gonna just like, I need to not jump the gun and be like, I want to get all of these. Like, let's just start with one first. But
start with one, but also like think big, dude. Like you can get all of them. Just like one at a time. Don't like, you know.
Yes. So that's something I'm super excited about. And just the fact that everyone at New Spirit is like just so on board to like helping.
Everyone just wants to learn and like do their best. And we have like amazing professionals already. Like some like I was listening to so many people talk and I was just like, you know your shit. Like you've been doing this. Like you know this. And it made me feel so honestly just excited for like the people coming into those doors, honestly.
Right. Yeah,
because like how cool that you're coming to people who
have
not only lived it, right? Yes, that whole idea. Like, what do we say? For the people,
helping people as a whole, for the people,
by the people.
Yeah,
for the people, by the people. We being the people,
and just helping people as a whole. So we have so many exciting, fun things in store.
Oh my gosh.
Tomorrow is the first day of New Spirits.
Yeah, that's when we're first starting to take patients. Which is like, I'm just excited for them. Yeah. Because I remember being in their shoes and wanting support so desperately and not getting the kind that I needed.
And I feel so good and so comfortable, like knowing they are going to be getting the care that they need. You know, I feel like that's so important, especially when, you know, we are able to help a lot of people and a lot of people trust us. And we made this decision very carefully. Like I have turned down a couple other treatment centers that I just didn't feel like were going to be a good fit. And I know we're just getting started, but I have a feeling we are going to do such big things. We are going to help so many people. And
lives are going to be saved.
Yes.
You know? Like,
right? I know. It's going to be amazing. So with that being said, I feel like we should wrap her up.
Wrap her up. Wrap her up. What else do we have to add here? I mean, I don't know. My excitement is just,
I gotta pee so bad.
Is that why Brittany's wrapping up?
I'm like, I gotta pee.
Do you actually have to pee?
And I hit my vape, but just kidding. No.
Well, you know, I'm excited to see Just
I
the
didn't
stories
look at the
we
cameras
can.
at all. Did you? Did you look at the screen? Isn't that crazy?
Are you looking at the cameras?
Yeah, just right
now.
now.
I think that's a no-no.
I'm getting sidetracked already.
I think that's a no-no in the podcast
Well,
world.
look at that. Would be the
clearly,
camera.
We're clearly Brittany's stuff looking at the cameras. We're clearly not professionals.
Yeah, this is our first time. I think we did okay. Well, thank God we have Sir
we have
over
some
here.
help here.
Yes.
I'm like trying not to make eye contact.
And
so
we're
I
going to
can
try to
be
do this
good.
once a month, okay? Because Anna's going to be coming back about once a month. We'll set this up. We'll keep it going. And
it's only going to get better.
Yes.
It only gets better from here.
Mm-hmm. So, thank you.
We'll see you next time in the SpiritPod.
SpiritPod.
In the SpiritPod. Come to the SpiritPod with us, guys. Mm-hmm. Have a spiritual journey with us. I feel like I need to do that like ASMR, like, you know, people whisper into their mics. Have a spiritual experience with us. Change your own life. Because you can.
We do recover.
We do recover.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And that's the mission here. And we'll show you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll show you all the people who have recovered and can do it. That is a testament that you also can.
I'm so excited. Okay, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Hey guys, we're gonna figure out how to close this out by next time.
Yeah, love you.
Love you.
We'll think
Have
of like a closing statement.
Yeah. Stay tuned for our next closing statement.
Okay, bye.
Bye.